could stand and hold your card, please. Thank you. Each card tonight represents a dose of illicit fentanyl. If you have a 9 or a 10, please stay standing, and everyone else can sit down. Thank you, and look around the room. The ones standing can be considered lucky, but those of you who are seated are not. Approximately 8 out of 10 fake pills are deadly, and if you are sitting down, you have just ingested a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl and will likely stop breathing and die. Unless you are with someone who can administer Narcan or naloxone, call 911 and start CPR. And even with all those interventions, you may not live. Timing is everything. You can all be seated. Thank you. Tonight is about awareness, education, to decrease or eliminate the lives lost and increase the lives saved. Tonight is a night for hope. And a good acronym I found that I would like to share is having only positive expectations. And you will hear more about hope during our program this evening. Please feel free to keep the card as a reminder of this evening and to talk to your family, friends, and Minnesota leaders about the dangers of fentanyl. Right now, I would like to introduce Fentanyl-Free Communities Foundation Chair, Michele Hein, Tyler's mom.
All right. I do this a lot when I speak. All right, thank you for indulging me there. Well, good evening, and thank you for being here. I'm loud. Hold on, let me step back. Welcome to the inaugural Gala of the Fentanyl-Free Communities Foundation. I am Michele Hein, Chair of the Foundation, Jerry Hein's wife of 34 years, proud mom of Alexandra for 30 years, Bia to Croy and Jovi, my amazing grandchildren, and mom to our angel son, Tyler, who we lost to fentanyl poisoning on July 18th, 2020. He was only 23 years old. Illicit fentanyl is a synthetic or man-made opioid that is 100 times more potent than morphine. People are ingesting it intentionally and unintentionally because it is often mixed into other substances or made into pills that look exactly like prescription medication. I wanted to start something to honor Tyler and all those lost to illicit fentanyl when we lost him, and to protect my grandchildren and your grandchildren. My co-chair Paul Ostro and I, along with Jim Erickson from Solomon Strategies Group, gathered a coalition of community leaders, retired local law enforcement, retired local and U.S. attorneys, impacted family members, and media strategist Jeff Fabre to start forming FFC. There are many wonderful organizations in Minnesota working to battle the opioid crisis by education, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery. We support and work with several of them. But what we wanted was to be laser focused on specifically combating fentanyl, the deadliest illicit drug Minnesota and our country has ever seen. Fentanyl-Free Communities is dedicated to safeguarding the well-being and futures of Minnesota families by continually educating and advocating for comprehensive measures to combat the devastating impact of fentanyl so lives are saved. We aim to create a fentanyl-free Minnesota for all. That first coalition meeting was February 7th, 2023, just 15 months ago. In that time, our board of directors has met in person every other month. FFC lobbied, supported, and organized testifiers for bills that were passed in the 2023 session. We received our 501c3 designation from the IRS in July of 2023. We attended, hosted, and or presented at community events in Edina, Cottage Grove, Orono, Elk River, Oakdale, Chanhassen, St. Louis Park, St. Paul, Isanti, Ram, North Branch, and Chisago. We are building partnerships with Latino, East African, and Indigenous communities across Minnesota, as these communities are impacted by fentanyl deaths more than any other demographic. Regardless of where you live, these deaths are preventable through awareness, education, harm reduction, and effective treatment options and recovery support. We will continue to be present in the legislature, county boardrooms, and city council chambers throughout our state to be sure all are continuing the work necessary to mitigate the fentanyl crisis in Minnesota. We have a robust website and a powerful social media presence thanks to the Fabre Agency. We launched our Pause campaign geared toward youth that you will hear more about later tonight. We have started conversations with law enforcement from around our state to see what their needs are in combating fentanyl. As you can see, there's a lot of work to do and we can tackle it from many angles. We are grateful that you are here tonight to support our cause. Donations can be made throughout the evening by flipping over your program, and on the back there's a QR code, and you can scan that and donate to the fentanyl-free community so we can continue our work. So we have a very full agenda tonight. We're going to hear inspiring stories from young adults in recovery from fentanyl. We're going to hear from Hennepin County Sheriff Dawanna Witt, U.S. Representative Angie Craig, and I just received a letter from Minnesota Representative Dave Baker, who is stuck in, say the right word for it, stuck at the legislature session, hashing it out. And I guess Wednesday night, they were there till 4 a.m. Thursday. I don't know how late they were there last night, so he sends his regrets, but I do have a letter I'll read. I looked away and started yapping. So those three people I just mentioned worked tirelessly in their respective positions to battle the fentanyl crisis in Minnesota and beyond. I do want to acknowledge the FFC board members that are with us tonight. Could you please stand? These esteemed members of our communities volunteer their time to help us raise awareness, educate the public, and change policies at the legislature, all in an effort to save more lives. Thank you all for your time and your talents in bringing them to our board. Now, before I introduce our first speaker, Lily Schock and Teresa Egan, if you could stand or wave from wherever you are. Teresa and Lily, right there. These two women did not hesitate when I started looking for Gala chairs, and they jumped at the opportunity, and they have guided the Gala committee for the last 3 months to make tonight a success. So please give them another round of applause. Thank you, ladies. You're not going to believe this. So I lost the bio I wrote for Sheriff Witt. So I just scrambled with her assistant. Oh, yeah, okay. It's right here. It's at the end of my intro. Can't believe that happened. Okay, so I don't have to pull it up on my phone. Okay, Hennepin County Sheriff Dawanna Witt was sworn into office in January of 2023. She is the first woman and person of color to hold the office. In her first year in office, Sheriff Witt launched the Focus on Fentanyl initiative to reduce fentanyl poisoning deaths through a combination of education, treatment, enforcement, and public advocacy efforts between the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office and partners. The initiative was recognized by Senator Amy Klobuchar and the Star Tribune editorial board in October of 2023. In February of 2024, Sheriff Witt traveled to Washington, D.C., where she discussed the fentanyl efforts extensively with both U.S. senators from Minnesota. sheriffs from across the country, and even briefly with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. We are so grateful to have her speak to us tonight. Please give a warm welcome to Hennepin County Sheriff Dawanna Witt.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Dawanna Witt. I am the Hennepin County Sheriff. As my grandmother would tell you, you can't have sheriff without her, you can't have sheriff without she. So, I've seen so many familiar faces here tonight, and the first person I want to acknowledge is Jeremy Drucker. Jeremy is from the Office of Addiction and Recovery, and you have been so helpful with working with our office to move the needle forward for the 1115 waiver, and we are so grateful for that. For those of you who don't know about the 1115 waiver, jails are often looked at as one of the biggest treatment facilities in our states. Hennepin County Jail has the largest jail in the state, the most populated jail in the state. I will tell you, I proudly went over my budget last year by treating people with humanity, making sure that we had the programs in place to take care of the people that are in our facilities so that they are better able to survive once released. One of the things that I call shameless is when people are incarcerated, they lose their insurance. We know once there are programs in place in jails and they have to continue their care outside of that jail facility, continuity of care has to be a must. And that's one of the things that the 1115 waiver does. And so that's one of the things that this sheriff's office, this sheriff, I'm not an office, I'm really a person, is taking the lead on, because I believe in treating people with humanity. And people who are in our facility deserve the best care possible, even if it means going over your budget, because to me, you don't put a dollar sign on lives. I would also like to acknowledge CN Representative Angie Craig, who I'm a little fan of yours, Angie, so. Where is she at? Okay, when I saw you over there, you gotta stop moving around so much. No. But someone who supports law enforcement in so many ways, including mental health resources. We need more people such as yourself stepping up and speaking out about what we need to make sure that we keep our communities safe. So thank you so much for taking the lead on that. And then all of the families that are here who have been affected by losing your loved ones to fentanyl overdoses, fentanyl poisoning. I'm going to talk a little bit more later about my initiative at the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, but I got to tell you, I've been called a heartfelt sheriff, and it wasn't meant in a nice way, but I took that with honor because you know what? Absolutely, you have to care about what's going on in your communities, especially when you're in the position to make decisions that change lives. Yes. So I've been in this profession for a little bit over 24 years. Yep, started when I was 1 year old. Don't hold that against me. But before I got into this profession, my original degree was chemical dependency and family therapy. I worked in treatment facilities. I worked with parents who got to have their children in those facilities with them as they battled their challenges against their various addictions. But before that, I got to share with you, I was that kid that grew up in that house where my father, who suffered with alcoholism, my mother, who was an addict, mental health issues that did not go addressed. So the lenses that I have, such as a small child and through life, there was at one point in my career where I said, okay, I gotta pretend that I'm somebody that I'm not. I know and I understand my mission here is to talk to people about how that affects us, how it affects the family component, because even though God forgot to tell me what he was doing and I couldn't figure it out then, I know now that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I know now that I am just one voice in this fight, and I am proud to tell people that I am an ally in this battle against this epidemic against fentanyl. All of those experiences helped me inform views on this problem and how to solve it. So although, yes, I work in the law enforcement field, as a peace officer, my perspectives are much larger than that. My voice is one that cannot be conformed or silenced just to make us think that we live in a world that does not exist. We must.
Good evening. My name is Paul Ostro, and I am honored to serve as the chair of Fentanyl-Free Communities, our policy board that partners with Fentanyl-Free Communities Foundation. I was drawn to this work by a career in public service, which included 3 terms on the Minneapolis City Council and 12 years as the lead narcotics prosecutor in Anoka County. In the latter years of my career, I saw firsthand the devastation caused by fentanyl in our communities, and frankly, I was saddened and deeply disappointed and frankly angry that we collectively, as a state and as a community, had not done nearly enough to save these precious lives. I'm very honored to serve on our board with passionate community voices and dedicated public servants. Thank you for being here. We especially want to welcome our youth, our volunteers, the Minneapolis Bridgemakers, and the Cedar Riverside Ambassadors. Please stand up to be recognized. We want to recognize the many of you in this room in recovery. Your courage and your strength as you fight this battle is what moves us forward. And I'm going to go off script for a moment because I want to honor all of you here who have lost a loved one. All of you who have angels that died way too young. Because more than anything, I have been moved by people like Michele Hein, Michelle Loberg, but others, our board members, volunteers, so many of you, who have suffered the ultimate loss, but yet still have that love, compassion, and concern in your heart to save someone else's son, someone else's daughter. I cannot express beyond my admiration for all of you is beyond words. So let's have a moment of silence, if we could, for all the angels represented in this room. Thank you. I have a great privilege at this time of introducing an outstanding leader in the fight against fentanyl poisoning. U.S. Representative Angie Craig is a champion of our cause and shows up and delivers every time we call upon her. We appreciate our partnership with her very much, and we are grateful for all that she has done, and we are very grateful that she is with us this evening. In early 2023, Representative Craig traveled to the border in McAllen, Texas with the Energy and Commerce Committee. Representative Craig called for bipartisan action. That can actually happen. Bipartisan action to stop the flow of fentanyl into the United States. In August of 2023, Representative Craig convened the very first meeting of her Mental Health and Substance Abuse Disorder Advisory Council. And in March of 2024, just 2 months ago, President Biden signed into law the End Fentanyl Act, authored by Representative Craig. This critical legislation requires Customs and Border Control to update its manuals at least every 3 years in order to identify new ways to prevent drug and human smuggling through ports of entry. It is my great honor to introduce Congresswoman Angie Craig. Let's give Congresswoman Craig a warm welcome.
Thank you for those kind words, remarks. I want you all to know I just flew back from Washington here earlier this afternoon, and I'm really glad to be with you. Let's get it out of the way first. I represent one of the most evenly divided districts in America. It's about a third Republican, a third Democrat, but a full 40% don't like Democrats or Republicans. And for the record, I know what you see in Washington is looks like a lot of nonsense. I'm here to confirm it is a lot of nonsense, and that I work with quite a few people who I consider to be full-on idiots in Washington, D.C. So one of the reasons why I feel that way is because I feel like Washington is not treating the fentanyl crisis in our country as the national crisis that it truly, truly is. And it is my goal in almost every meeting I have, no matter the subject and where it starts. I often pivot in a room full of parents on any topic to what do your children know about fentanyl? What do your children know about the dangers of purchasing pressed pills on Snapchat or other social media opportunities? So I just want to say it's with enormous pride, Michelle, that you invited me to speak here this evening. I don't know how Jerry keeps up with you, to be honest, for 34 years. But, good for you, Jerry. I really appreciate it. Our children and our communities are safer because of the work that you do and the work of the board in this room here today. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for everything you're doing. And I know for sure that Tyler is with us here tonight. I've been thinking a lot about the name of the organization that brought us here, Fentanyl-free Communities. Over the years, the urgency of solving the fentanyl crisis has grown exponentially. And in America, we have not been able to keep up. In our families, we have not been able to keep up. Fentanyl, it knows no geography, it knows no socioeconomic barriers, it knows no color. We in our family, my goddaughter is 3 years in recovery right now. I'm very, very proud of her. But one of the reasons that I came to this work specifically is our oldest son, Josh. We adopted him when he was 4 months old. His birth mother died of a drug overdose when he was 7 years old. And I have promised Josh that with every breath and every moment that I'm serving in the United States Congress, that I will spend my time making sure that the mental health and the opioid and the fentanyl crisis in our country is lifted up, and that we don't put our heads in the sand at all to any of the opportunities we have to save even one life in the future. I've met a few of you here tonight, and I know that the crisis has ripped apart families, children, parents, siblings, but it's also brought you all together in an evening like tonight, together to advocate not only in the name of your children or loved ones, to save that next life. And it's a crisis that continues to break my heart every single day. The truth of the matter is that no person can build alone a fentanyl-free community. But that doesn't mean it's not impossible if we all work together. We're here tonight because we believe that building it is possible. It will take extraordinary partnerships and teamwork, but if anyone can do it, I know the people in this room can. It will happen because of Michelle's advocacy for the tools and resources to prevent overdose deaths in honor of Tyler. It will happen because of Colleen's work to change the outcome, to educate Minnesota's young folks on the danger of fentanyl as she carries on the loving memory of her son, Luke. I had the opportunity to attend one of those educational opportunities in a high school in Apple Valley just a few months ago, and to watch the team talk to high school students to help educate them. I look too much like their mother to get up and talk to them, so I just kind of sat in the back. Nobody wants to be told what to do by their mother. I get that. I have 4 sons. The youngest is 21 and the oldest is 26. And I know how difficult this world can be, this country can be for young people today. In a time when social media connects us all, young people have never felt so isolated. And they've never been so at risk of being taken advantage of on the social media platforms. And I'm getting to that in just a second. We will be able to solve this, though, because the partnerships forged between law enforcement, and I'm kind of upset I had to speak after Sheriff Witt, elected officials, community leaders, and of course because of advocates like every single one of you. On the federal side, what I've come to understand through the work with people in my district and you as advocates is that there is no single answer. It's going to take a number of things. On the federal side, I've made it a priority to expand access to naloxone and harm reduction tools, as well as increase resources for law enforcement as they combat fentanyl. You know, I'm so proud to have worked with so many of you in this room through my Mental Health and Substance Use Advisory Council. In December, the House did pass, thank you so much, Paul, for mentioning it, the End Fentanyl bill, but also the House passed my Bipartisan Reconnections Act, which would expand prescription drug monitoring programs, provide community and health system interventions, and conduct additional research on controlled substance overdoses. The bill would also categorize the fentanyl crisis as a new and emerging health crisis. Now, I know I'm sitting here in this room and we're all thinking the same thing. We just categorize this in our nation as a new and emerging health crisis. That tells you everything you need to know about Washington and its priorities, or lack thereof, for this national crisis. Additionally, I led the group of bipartisan lawmakers in pushing the Food and Drug Administration last year to approve the over-the-counter availability and sale of Narcan. There's a young man, his name was Ryan. I saw him literally brought back to life on the floor of a family restaurant with Narcan on a police ride-along. That was simply the call that I was on with the officer that I was riding with. And from that moment on, my team and I, we carry Narcan with us everywhere. We make sure that we are training ourselves, our staff, and anyone else in the community who wants it to make sure that they understand the importance of it. And I know that there are so many additional harm reduction tools like test strips and others. So it's education, it's harm reduction, but it's also asking the administration to do more at the southern border, to stop this poison from entering our country in the first place. A reporter asked me yesterday, because I represent one of the most swing districts in America, whether I would want the president to come to my district. My answer was, yep, because I want to talk to him about all the things we need to be doing in order to address this crisis at the southern border. We also have to put more diplomatic pressure on China and Mexico, because we got to go to the source of this poison, and we have to do everything we can to stop it from coming across in the first place. And tonight, I'm going to be making an announcement. Very soon, I'm going to be introducing a new bill in the House of Representatives, one that is especially close to my heart. It's called the Cooper Davis and Devin Norring Act. We're going to rename that Senate bill the Cooper Davis Act in the House of Representatives, also after Devin Norring. Many of you know Bridget Norring. Her son, Devin, was an honor student at Hastings High School who loved playing football, making music, and skateboarding. His photo is out there as well. I didn't ever get to know Devin because in April 2020, he died in his sleep as a result of a press pill, a fentanyl overdose at age 19. Devin bought what he thought was Percocet off of Snapchat to relieve blackout migraines and dental pain. But it wasn't Percocet, of course, it was 100% fentanyl. Devin's story is heartbreaking. It's familiar to many of you, I recognize that. But social media companies need to do more to protect our kids from the poisons that are being sold and distributed on their platforms. The Cooper Davis and Devin Norring Act will hold the social media platforms accountable for the poison allowed to be sold. I'm so grateful for Bridget to allow me to lift up Devin's name and his memory in this legislation. I'm going to end with a little bit more of a personal story because Sheriff Witt reminded me and all of us just how important it is. Many of you may remember that in February of 2023, I was assaulted in Washington, D.C. I was punched, I was grabbed, trapped in an elevator with someone who demanded that I take him to my apartment. Now, he didn't know I was a member of Congress. I was just another woman on an elevator that morning. But this young man, who was 26 years old, I later found out that I was his 13th count of assault. In the District of Columbia, he had received no more than 10 to 30 days in jail for his previous 12 assaults. What I also learned, though, is this young man is schizophrenic. This young man is an addict. This young man was unhoused. No one, not one time was this young man offered health care or treatment during or post his incarceration. If we are going to address public safety in our communities, if we are going to address the addiction crisis in our communities, we are going to have to do two things. We have to hold people accountable for their actions, but we also have to make sure that they get the help that they need. I don't know when this young man is released, whether there'll be a number 14. He's been sentenced to 26 months in jail that he's serving. What I do know is that part of his sentencing, I made sure that he is going to get health care treatment before and after his release. Thank you so much.